If you weren't here at the start, we had a really cool video of, I don't know, how many, 15, 20 kids from Zimbabwe that wrote out a message for us, Happy Birthday Pathway, and we'll play that again at the gala coming up in a couple weeks. We're not going to talk about the past over the next 3 weeks because, well, I don't know, that gets boring, especially if you're not part of it. Now, everybody wasn't there 15 years ago, which is a good thing. That means it's continually changing. Next year, hopefully we'll say the same thing, looking back that we've grown throughout the year. But we are going to show little videos like that over the next 3 weeks, have some really cool ones from people, and it's just kind of cool to see that we've made a difference, you know, that we matter as a church, that there's a reason that we're here. So it was 15 years ago that we publicly launched as a church. Sometimes there's really kind of two birthdays we have. We started as a group in March prior and met weekly, kind of under the radar. And like when I talk about the first song we ever did, The Rock of Ages, that was that March gathering. I honestly don't remember what the October 1st song was. I just remember the March one because Rod Roberts came in and I forgot to tell him and I broke a string and it was just that kind of impacted me. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have remembered that. But we started out in October with a series where we did a bunch of mail cards and a whole bunch of people came from the community and it was really kind of fun. And the series we did of teaching was talking about when your life gets out of control and kind of how to help you gain control in your life. It talked about finances. It talked about raising children, how sometimes children, that whole parenting thing gets out of control and helping you kind of bring that in. We talked about anger and work ethic and finances and hurried lifestyles, just how we get so busy and crazy. And another one thing we talked about, the very first sermon on the launch Sunday, was how to get along with people that drive you crazy. Anybody drive you crazy? I mean, you were real emphatic about yes, yes they do. Yes, they drive me crazy. We all have people that drive us crazy. Now, the funny thing about that sermon was, I didn't think it was like a big deal. Every week's a big deal, right? But it wasn't like, wow, that's a big deal. There is no sermon I've ever done that's ever had more requests for a repeat than that one. I mean, no one ever says, hey, do that tithing sermon again. I'm waiting, because I've got some in my back pocket. We can jump on that. But I never get that. But throughout the years, multiple times, I've had people say, please do that one sermon. And even this last Friday night, I had a 3-week plan in place for these 3 weeks. On Friday night, we're at the Stocks dinner, wedding rehearsal dinner, and sitting around the table, just kind of chatting, talking about some of the trivia, some of the stuff I was posting on our Facebook group, what was the first song, that kind of stuff. And even there it came up, you got to do that sermon again, do it this week. And I'm like, no, I already have a plan, blah, 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 blah. And the more the night went on, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I totally threw out my plan. And so here's what we're going to do today. Going back 15 years, I guess if we can do the songs, we can do the sermon, right? And it's amazing. I basically took the notes of that sermon 15 years ago, and I might have tweaked it here, but very little tweaking. I had the main points we'll look at. I kind of tweaked that because I thought it was kind of dorky. I was 15 years a minor back then, right? What did I know? And so maybe some tweaks, but it's mostly what we talked about on that day 15 years ago. And so here we go. This is what it is. Put up the tithes slide, quick. Yeah! Okay, you look at these shapes up here on the wall. Which one identifies with you? Which one do you look at and go, oh. It's not talking body shape, okay? We're talking, one of those, you'll immediately think, oh yeah, kind of that one, And there might be two you kind of go back and forth from. You identify with one of those. Now, what you've done is taken a very sophisticated personality test right here. Now, some corporations will waste hours taking really sophisticated tests. I just throw that up on the wall and say, which one are you? And it's about the same thing. It's amazing because I've taken some of those sophisticated tests too. How many of you are squares? Circles? Triangles? Squiggly lines? Notice who said, yeah, Squiggly! That'll make sense in a minute. See, most of you weren't here on that day 15 years ago, but it's funny how this particular topic, thing, whatever you call this, became part of the fabric of our church and part of our vocabulary. And people say, oh, you're just a circle. And people who weren't there are like, what does that even mean? I mean, they don't know. I used to have we had staff meetings. I'm like, guys, stop using this terminology. Nobody knows what you're talking about. That's called insider talk. So just in case you hear people say, oh, you're a square, you're a triangle, whatever, I'm going to catch you all up. This is what they're talking about, okay? And now I also realize it's a danger because that means going forward the next 15 years. Now we've rebooted it, right? But so I'll always say, oh, it's a personality thing, if you're going to talk about it. Here's the deal. If you're a circle, you're probably if you're identified, you say, I'm a circle, you're probably a feeling type of person. You're emotional type of person. You like harmony at work. You like harmony at church. You like harmony at home. You get emotional at weddings. On the wedding yesterday, I saw someone weeping on stage. I thought, circle, right? I mean, they're just, they're happy, and they just identify. You're the one who cries at the end of a movie. Some people, when Old Yeller was shot, okay, that's aging me. Somebody, what's an old yeller? Anyway, some people cry at movies and other people laugh. Circles cry, they get emotional. If someone's angry at you, you are very aware of it. It'll keep you awake at night. You won't sleep. If you're aware of a dispute between other people, you won't sleep. It'll hurt your soul, and you ache, and because you feel deeply. You like I said, harmony. The important thing to you is relationships, right? That is key. Most important thing. I mean, not above God or anything, but you're looking here, all that matters is relationships to you. That's high priority to you, relationships. A square, how many were squares? Got some squares, I saw some squares. Okay. We need all of these, by the way. I'm always accused of making one look bad over the other, and it probably changes depending on the time I do this, but we're all equally important here. A square has equal sides, right? They're very, very equal. You're organized, you're analytical, you have a set way of doing things. You probably mow the yard like every time the same way. I mean, like you could close your eyes and mow the yard because it's just the same pattern. Or if you're making a pattern, it's you have a plan to it though. There's a process. As opposed to me, I just get to go, well, what am I doing this time, and I get out there and mow. But Square has a process to it. You probably have a shopping day, maybe a laundry day. You probably have a shopping list when you go to do shopping, that kind of stuff. I've heard of people who do that. Pretty good thing. You know what you're having for supper tonight, probably. You may know what you're having for supper next Thursday night if you're a really big Square. It's just possible. Most important thing to you is process. All right, it's people are nice and everything, but it's the process. How are we getting this accomplished? Whatever it is, the process is very important to you as a Square. It's more important than achieving the goal. It's more important than maintaining the relationships that are around you, because that's just priority to you. You often hear Square say it's the principle of the matter, which is, by the way, the last thing the circles care about, because they're cared about the people. It's the people of that matter. And Square's like, no, it's the principle, that matters. So right there, you already have a conflict. Right, that is a possibility. Two people might drive each other crazy because one's talking principle, one's talking people. Now throw in triangles. Triangles? Awesome. Okay, yep. It's pointing somewhere. It's going in a direction, right? You're the leaders amongst us. You focus on what needs to be done. You probably have a goal in mind, and you gather people and make sure we're all headed to that place. We're all headed. We're going out that door here. Okay, everybody, come on this section first. Let's go on. Okay, you guys, come on now. You're just going to start ordering people around. Well, the circles might call it ordering. You're not thinking of ordering. You're just organizing, right? You're just getting like, come on, let's go. You're getting the direction set. You're getting everything going in the right direction. So if a job needs to be done, there's a handful of people around, you hand out the orders, you make sure it gets going. The most important thing to you is the goal we're going to get accomplished. We're going out that door. That's all that matters. You might lose a few people on the way. Hey, that happens. I don't care the process. I don't care if we go this way or that way or over. I don't really care. We're just going out the door. That's what matters. Now the Square's going, wait a minute. I've calculated this. We're going this way. I don't care. Good. Just get out the door. And the Circle's like, wait a minute, but there's some people who want to go that way. I don't care, right? No conflict there, right? Possibly. Yeah, there could be conflict. You actively seek opportunities that test and develop your abilities. You love a challenge, right? You like difficult tasks. You like competitive, intense situations, important positions. Not out of ego, but you thrive in those type of situations. You have a self-confidence that is often misinterpreted as arrogance, especially by circles. They're so arrogant. No, they're just confident. They know where they're going. They just know where they're going. Oh, no, they run over people. Well, you're not as important as the goal. I mean, you don't say it that way. Don't say, but that's what's going on up here. They don't mean it that way. That's just how they're wired, right? They're not mean people, but they're important people, and they got to be in every organization, especially they got to have them in the church as well. So you do have a tendency, if you're a triangle, to hurt other people's feelings, especially circles. And when you do offend them, you assume it's because they're weak, okay? Not because you've ignored their basic need of relationship, how they're wired. Got quiet. That's just kind of how triangles, that's how we're wired, right? Squiggly lines, how many were squiggies? Yeah. Troy Engeldinger was wearing a muffin costume on Wednesday when I saw him. And I said, dude, we're having muffins on Monday. Do a video. It wasn't like we went out and bought a muffin costume for the video. I love. Or did I say muffin? I keep calling them muffins. See? I'm a squiggly, all right? Details. They're not important, right? That's kind of a fun thing. We're on the squigglies, right? Yeah, squigglies. Keyword is fun. You enjoy life. You enjoy the journey. You're creative. You like to do new things. You wear cupcake outfits and banana outfits and stuff like that. If you've ever seen Troy Youth Group, you have a lot of fun with that. Relationships are great. They're important, right? A good process is helpful if it's not boring. Achieving the goal would be fine as long as it's not getting tedious, right? Type of thing. What really matters is you enjoy that journey. Let's have some fun. If we're going to do this, let's have some fun. Let's enjoy this thing, right? Matter of fact, you probably have a half dozen undone projects laying around the house right now. Yep. Yep. Because you started something with great intent, and this is going to be great, and it'll be the greatest thing ever. It's going to be wonderful. Everybody's going to love this. And you're like, I'm going to start this one now. It's just kind of the way you're wired. You like to change the furniture around at home just because. You take a different route to work once in a while just because the other way is getting boring and stale, so you do it a different way. You focus on the future. You're motivated by recognition. You like to work with people. You may not think of yourself this way, but you are a salesperson. You sell everything, whether it's the shirt you're wearing to the brand of cupcake you're eating. My mom was a squiggle, right? And she sold everything. I got this thing. It's the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, Mom, it's a paper clip. I mean, it's like, nobody, that's just their personality. She was always animated and just so much fun. So you will sell things, your ideas, your abilities. You are overly optimistic about people and yourself. I get myself in trouble so often assuming I'm going to do great things that are impossible. But of course I'm going to do this. Why not? You give people more credit than they deserve, and you give your own plans. Poor Cheryl, has lived with me for a long time now, and I'm always coming up with some lame brain hairy idea. I'm like, this is going to be great. We're going to do this. She's like, it won't work. It'll work. It'll be great. And we have all kinds of half projects laying around that weren't that great. But I was sure it was great at the time. Now, you're going to be dominant in one of these. I mean, that's just the way you're wired. And this is general, right? I mean, this isn't like too detailed of a thing. But you're going to be dominant in one of those and probably have a high second in the other. Personally, like, this has been confirmed when I take all the sophisticated tests. I'm a squiggly, high leader, totally low on the other two. Doesn't mean I don't like people or that I don't like to organize. I don't like to organize, never mind. I'm just not wired. If I organize something, I have to put a lot of, it takes energy and I get tired and it drains me, but I will do it probably to the point that I'm over-organized in those areas where I organize, but I can't maintain it. I'm just not wired that way. I'm squiggly leaders, and under stress or a stressful situation, I will flip those and be triangle squiggly. So you'll change in situations that need to be changed. That seems to be how it is. We're doing this project in our backyard, our whole house really, right now. And so we started siding the shed and refurbishing it and moving some walls. I mean, it's just a little shed, but I did a bunch of work on it. Probably got about 98% of that thing done. And then I moved to the fence. Okay. So the shed isn't done yet. And then it's like, we got to build this fence. And so I started building the fence. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's some logs in my yard that are still there that I just toiled there because I got the splitter, and I'm going to split it up because we have a little fireplace, and it's not many, but it's, 8, 10, whatever. I'm going to do that. And so I have a fence that's probably 97% finished. I don't know, I haven't really calculated. Numbers aren't that important, right? And then I thought, I'm going to sign my house. It's winter coming on. I got to beat winter, and obviously I can do this. I mean, I didn't calculate the fact that it's getting dark, like it's 3 in the afternoon now, and it's raining every 6 hours, and it's like there's some stuff I didn't calculate, but I still keep telling Cheryl, it's going to get done. We're going to get this thing done. And I'm about 4% done on our house. This is scary. So we might have a really ugly house for most of the winter, which will really put me in the doghouse. But she's a circle, so she'll love me. But I think she's down the hall. They're not taping this service, are we? But I'm just a spaz. I'm a spaz, right? I drive squares crazy. What's the squares say? That was emphatic. Those are the people who've been around 15 years. They're like, yes, yes, you drive me crazy. I know I drive people crazy. It's the stuff. This is stuff, though, that we use every day of our lives. We do. We work with all these people. Your home is filled with these people. The church is filled with these people. Now, sad news is we need all of them. I say sad because it'd be easier if they were all you, right? I mean, actually, it'd be really boring. Squiggles won't like that. We like the excitement of the mix. But we need each other. We need all of us to get things done. But we use this all the time. You're in a car. You're driving down the road. There's 4 of you. You got a circle and a square and a squiggly and a triangle, and you're trying to figure out what we're going to have for supper, right? And what happens? The square says, well, I know we're going to go this place because they have a coupon right now, and they're telling the value and calorie intake and all, talking about all the stuff they've analyzed and why this is the best place to eat. And the squiggly is like, I don't care. I just want to go somewhere different. I want something new. I'm bored with whatever we've been doing. And the circle's going, I don't care. Whatever you guys want. I mean, they're not going to offend anybody. They just, whatever. I just go with the crowd. And the triangle's probably the one who's driving because they got something going on, and they just pull in the parking lot and say, we're eating here. I mean, that's just kind of how it works. But it works that way in every area of life. You go to the office. The circles are more concerned with how people are feeling about the work project or whatever's going on. They're concerned with the relationships that are there. Is everybody happy? Does everybody like the direction we're going as a company? The squiggly, they're staring out the window and making a paper clip chain, but they're thinking, right? The wheels are turning. They're being creative, trying to think of something new, something different, right? The squares, they're all annoyed that people aren't following the processes that are in place. We have a book. It's a manual. Follow it. What's wrong with you people? We know how we do this. Did you not get the memo? The squiggly's not even looked up the email to see if there's a memo. That's going on. The triangle's running around telling people what to do, and even if they're not technically the boss, they put on that hat and they're running around bossing everybody, and that's just kind of what's going on. Here's why some people drive you crazy. It's because it's natural. We are just plain wired differently. And we drive each other crazy just by the way we're wired. Some of you are wired in such a way that I want to punch you in the face. Okay? I mean, I am wired in such a way, especially now, the circles are all like, I can't believe you said that. I am wired in such a way that some of you want to punch me in the face. I mean, just be honest. This is what it is. This is what it is. Now, luckily, we have boundaries, we have Jesus, we have the Holy Spirit, and we have things helping us from doing it, but we drive each other crazy sometimes because we just do. Squiggles drive squares crazy, squares drive squiggles crazy, circles get ulcers listening to everybody going crazy over everybody else, and the triangle makes everybody mad, and we just all make each other crazy. I'm continually changing processes, and that didn't work, or I give it 2 weeks, and I'm going to try something different, and part of it is because I'm trying to improve. It's not like I'm just trying to be a spaz. I'm just trying to improve. So it's been great as the church has matured for me to step out of some of the things to say, it's best if I leave that alone. Let's put some squares over here to organize this thing and make it happen. That'd be great, and I'll come over here and spaz something else out. But that's what's called, that's working together. That's how it's really we're designed to be as a body of Christ. Here's what I want to do with this information. I got 3 suggestions for you. Keep in mind when working with people. When people are driving you crazy, when you have that thought of, I'd like to punch that person in the face, Let this go through your mind first. Hopefully this will keep you from following through. One of it's on you, and that is to go with your strengths. Like if you're wired a certain way, do what you're wired to do, right? I mean, you do it. You'll be given plenty of opportunities to do things you're not wired to do. Especially in a church setting, we always have opportunities. Hey, we need teachers. Hey, we need nursery workers. Hey, we need whatever. We need people doing all kinds of things. If that's not your thing, if you're not wired to lead, don't take a leadership position. If you're not wired to organize, don't say, I will organize the whatever. Do things you're wired to do. You'll find much more satisfaction and joy in your service and a lot less stress in your life if you just do what you're wired to do. So figure out who you are, and you might want something more sophisticated than this, but this tends to be amazingly accurate, actually. And secondly, just learn to say no to those things you're not wired to do. If I owned a business, I would put the Squiggles in charge of sales because they're going to be my salespeople. They're going to sell it anyway. Why not let them? They're going to be the ones who are better at it. So I'd get them out on the sales force. I'd put my circles as receptionists or greeters or whatever if I had a business. Triangles, I'd have them leading teams of people and say, hey, here's where we're going. Make a vision, make a plan, get your thing and get going. Go with it, run, and get things done. They're gonna drive the sales force and get things going. The squares, I'd put them doing the books and the office work and evaluating efficiencies because they're gonna figure out processes that work better. They really will. And they might irritate some people, but go with it. They really have studied it. I have learned to trust my squares in my life and my triangles and my other people because I think I'm not that person and they are, so I'm going to trust them over me in so many areas because it's why I don't know everything. There's so many things I can't do. Go with the people who are wired that way. So go with your strengths and run with it. The triangles, I'd have them set goals and make vision. The squigglies will add creative juice to the goals and the vision that's set. The squares will put meat on those bones, create a plan to get it in. I am wired in such a way that all I know is, we'll use the door thing. All I know is I want to get out that door. That's all I know. I don't know that this is the first step. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go that, the old Family Circus cartoon, and he's like going all over the place. I'm that guy. I'm like, I want to go out that door. This looks like a great direction. I'll head off this way. And so I have to have squares in my life to say, hey, the first step might be to go this direction. That's awesome. And so I'll start going, but I'll get here and I'll get kind of like, hey, there's a butterfly, squirrel. That thing, and so you got to have squares in your life that just keep you going. We need you, but the squares need squigglies to get them out of a rut. So we need each other that way. Go with your strength, do your strength. Paul talks about the same thing in the context of spiritual gifts that I would add personality traits, to as well in Romans 12, where it says, "So in Christ we who are many form one body. Each member belongs to all the others. We're in this together. All the squigglies and squares and triangles and circles. We have different gifts according to the grace given us. If a man's gift is prophesying, we'll let him use it in proportion to his faith. If it's serving, let him serve. If it's teaching, let him teach. If it's encouraging, let him encourage." Circles? Right? If it's contributing to the need of others, let him give generously. If it's leadership, let him govern. Triangles? Do it. Lead, right? If it's showing mercy, let him do it cheerfully. Love must be sincere. Hate what's evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. Even the circles, right? I got to love them. Even the triangles, even the squiggles. What? I got to love their squares. Are you serious? Love them. We're encouraged in the church to find our gift, to know our gift, and to engage in service, and because we belong to one another. And so find out how you're wired and move forward with that. If you're a square, find a place that has structure or needs structure. You know what? A new church needs lots of, we're not new anymore, but in the beginning, man, I had to put a lot of squares around me. Sometimes I misidentified people as squares. And I found out, man, you're more squiggle than me. But I didn't know that. or more triangle or something. We needed squares to create processes, because I'm not the process guy. I mean, I know big picture stuff, but I'm not. If you're a circle, find a place where you work with people, because we need you in the front lines. We need you being that friendly person that says, "Hey, we're glad you're here." How long have you been coming to Pathway? We need a lot of circles doing that kind of stuff. If you're a triangle, start leading something. If you're not, man, don't just sit back and say, why aren't they doing whatever? Lead, right? If you're a squiggle, go to the youth group. But we want everybody to serve. Find your area and serve and get involved. Here's the second thing. Have a little humility. Because here's the thing. If I'm a circle, I don't understand why everybody's not a circle. I mean, I'm wired that way, so I assume everybody should be. If I'm a squiggle, I think, why isn't everybody, why are people so uptight? I mean, lighten up. That's my thought. If I'm a triangle, I'm like, what are you doing just sitting there? We got places to go. Why isn't everybody a triangle? And the squares are like, why can't people figure this out? Why don't people like me? Why aren't they as organized as I am? We all think that. Whatever you are, we want everybody to be that way. And the thing is, we're not wired that way. We're just not. We're just different from one another. So we can get so caught up in our own world to the point that we don't accept the people around us that God made differently than us. Sometimes people drive me crazy because I put too high of an expectation on them to be like me. And they shouldn't be like me. God didn't make them like me. That's not the case. So Paul writes in Philippians 2, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should not only look at your own interests, but also the interests of others. Circles, you're going to do this naturally. Squares, you need to look at the interests of the squiggles and the triangles and circles and the squiggles. You need to look at the interests of the squares and the triangles. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying. We look at each other's interests and what is it they need? What are their needs? I was at a pizza place one day years ago, a long time ago, and that was back in the days when I wore suits, to church. I used to wear them every day. And anyway, I was after church one day. I went to get some pizza, and the server dropped an entire pitcher of water in my lap. And my first thought was, I'm going to have some fun with this, right? I mean, it was ice cold water. How often does that happen? This is kind of cool, all right? And so I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I was just going crazy on this poor girl. And a lot of servers are squiggles. So, they'll like, hey, I'll get another one. I was expecting her to play along, and she starts bawling. And fortunately, I wasn't so caught up in my own little game I was playing there that I saw that, and it identified a big red flag. It said, oh wait, she's not a squiggle. She's a circle. She's afraid she's affected our relationship by dumping water on me. Okay. I figured I just got wet and it'll dry. Hey, this is kind of a fun project, a little journey thing. And so I had to change my tune really quick and say, hey, really, I'm just joking. That's water, right? Yeah. I said, these are clothes, right? Yeah, they'll dry. Don't the clothes dry? Yeah. I said, I'm okay. I'm not bleeding. I still love you. I didn't say that. We're fine. We're good. See, I had to use a little humility and not say, why aren't you a squiggle? Let's have some fun with this. What's wrong with you? It was, you're really hurting, aren't you? I mean, you're crying. You're concerned with our relationship. So I had to go in her direction and fix that whole thing. I remembered this had happened, but I looked at my notes from 15 years ago, and it was like right when this happened. 2 days prior to our launch, and I'm having dinner with Cheryl, and we're at El Mariachi, and she's talking about how school starts at 8:25 and yada, 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 and I'm thinking to myself, could have sworn school started at 8:45, a whole 20 minutes later, which wouldn't be a big deal, but I'm the one who takes Shannon to school. And it's October 11th. And I discovered that since the first day of school in August, every single day, Shannon had been late because I didn't bother to figure out what time school started. Now, a square would figure that out, right? A square would say, hey, what time does school start? I'm like, it must be about the same time Danielle goes. Come on, Shannon. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea, right? But I mean, it was traumatic to poor Shanna because the whole class, I mean, it was awful. They tried every discipline they could to get her to be on time. They promised a class pizza party if she could go a week and not be late. And she kept saying, I'm late. And I'm going, I drop you off. What do you do? How long does it take to walk into school? It was all on me. It was completely my fault. I don't know why I drive people crazy. I don't know. You would think I'd have learned from that situation. She ended up being okay. She got out of school fine, no major scars. Maybe that was her secret. Why she's done so well. Anyway, it's not nearly as funny to her. Yeah, it may be hard to believe, but I do annoy squares, and they have patterns and rules and pay attention to facts and times and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that leads me to this last thing, which is really important right now. This is selfish. This is for me. Have a little grace, right? Have a little grace when I drive you crazy. I'll promise I have a little grace when you drive me crazy too, right? Colossians, 3:13 says, bear with one another, forgive one another, grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Yeah. Out of the 4 simplified personalities up there, 3 of them are going to annoy you. That's most of the people. Most of the people will figure out a way to annoy you if you're not careful. Bear with them. They're not you. They're not wired like you. God put them together differently. And he says, forgive as the Lord forgave you. I'm so glad God forgave me. Put it in that perspective. Think about this. God is perfect. He is all-powerful. He is all-knowing. He is omniscient. I mean, he's God, right? He spoke the universe into existence. And compare that to me. Compare that to you. I'm like nothing. I've not spoken anything to existence. I don't even know what time school starts. I mean, man, I'm a mess. And you look at Jesus. What does God do in response to my imperfection? I mean, there's times if I were God, I'd be like, yeah, let's get rid of this guy. He's really annoying. But he didn't. He sent his son Jesus, who was perfect, lived sinless life, lived a perfect life, died on the cross, forgive our sins, forgive us all of our past failures, offer us a new start. I'm just riff through these verses. I got several verses that talk about God's forgiveness. As far as the east is from the west, so far as he removed our transgression from us. It's an infinite amount of space east from west. That's Psalm 103. Isaiah 38, in your love, you kept me from the pit of destruction. You have put all my sins behind your back. Oh, you did that? I can't see it back here. Okay, out of sight, out of mind, right? Micah 7, you will again have compassion on us. You'll tread our sins underfoot and stomp on it, right? And hurl our iniquities into the depths of the sea. I like to think of it as stepping on a bug and throwing it in a toilet and flushing it. A little more modern, but you get the idea. He took your sin, pushed it, got rid of it, it's gone. Isaiah 43, even I am he who blots out your transgressions for my own sake and remembers your sins no more. Yeah, but God, remember when what? I don't remember that. I didn't do that. Yeah. Go on. Last one, 2 Corinthians 5, God made him who has no sin to be sin for us, that in him we might become the righteousness of God. So Christ offers to take away our sins, to make us whole, to make us pure, to make us perfect, and then to give us a new start in life. And then Paul says, remember what Jesus did for you? Do that for everybody else. They're so annoying. They make me so stinking mad. But I want to punch them in the face. Yeah, forgive them. That thing that annoys you, just put it behind your back. Don't dwell on it. Don't put it in front of you where you're thinking about it all the time. Put it behind your back and say, oh, silly squigglies. Oh, silly squares. Oh, silly triangles. Whatever it is. I mean, that doesn't excuse us for being sinful. It just says, I'm going to offer grace to someone who's wired differently and probably sees the situation completely different than I do. Whether it's eating cupcakes that I keep calling muffins because that's a detail, or whatever, have grace for one another. And once you work out your problem, because honestly, it's my problem if I'm looking at you saying you're inferior to me, that's my problem. God created you in such a way that you're inferior to me. That's my problem. Once I work that out, then you embrace them and you love them, help them, you figure out their strength and work in that strength. Celebrate that. That's my cue. We're going to sing one last song. If you would stand, we're going to pray together, and I'll frog out one last song. Let's pray.